Welcome to This Morning on Asake podcast, your daily dose of insightful conversation on current affairs, politics, and social issues. Please share and also follow us on social media at SiteZW. Now, stay tuned to today's episode.
A very good morning to you guys. Welcome to the Tuesday edition of Asake Online Spaces. My name is Brighton. It's lovely to be back again. Good morning to you, Nakika, this morning.
Good morning, Brighton, and good morning to our guests. Welcome to This Morning on Asake.
Right, our guest for this morning is former Polilima West MP and also former GNU Minister, that's Mzila Ndlovu, joining us this morning to unpack the issue of devolution. I know this issue, subject is center in his heart, and also has been talking about devolution for many years. And today we want to understand more how devolution can help us promote minority language, and also why we haven't fully implemented devolution. Where are we now? How many years later after our new constitution? But why haven't we fully implemented devolution?
And you know what I like about our guest, Brighton? He fought the war. He was a teacher, and he's been in politics. So he's been in all these places. Welcome to the show, Babumzi.
One of the 13 languages, this is up to us, the speakers of minority languages, to actually fight for their place in the thing. In the national discourse.
So Bunjan. But let's speak about devolution now. We're in government during the GNU, right, and also MP in Polilima, right. Let's speak about the issue of the Constitution of Zimbabwe, right. 2013 it was written, the Constitution of Zimbabwe, issue of devolution. Why isn't government fully implemented devolution? I think there's quite a broad spectrum of reasons why the current government is not keen to implement devolution. I would start by summarizing to say that there is this fear of allowing people to enjoy the democratic right as enshrined in the Constitution. That if you allow people to be free, then they will not be usable in the scheme of things that the current government is envisioning, because it is in their vision that there's an complete absence of an acceptance of the existence of a variety of ethnic groups, regional groups, who are willing to build the nation of Zimbabwe, but who have been treated very badly, extremely badly, by this government, by the ZANU-PF government since 1980. The principles and the attitudes towards other ethnic groups besides the Shona group is such that you are vassals in this setup. You are nothing. And we hear historically, people want to fish from so far back from history, in a distorted history, to say that people don't belong here. Look, where I live now at Mapungubwe is my farm, where I am now. It's my ancestral land. And I don't think anybody is older than the Kami ruins, because that's an extension of Kami ruins. And that's where I live in my ancestral ruins. And most of the people here in Zimbabwe, especially in Matebele land, live in their ancestral, lands. Whether it's the Nambia people, it's the Tonga people, it's the Venda people, they live in their ancestral lands. So I don't understand why the ZANU-PF government, which believes that its power derives from the Shona group that they see as a majority in Zimbabwe, should feel threatened by people from Matabeleland enjoying the same kind of privileges and rights.
There's been this talk of devolution. Why? Why is it important for us to go that route?
Look, the devolution was part of what we fought for. If you trace the archives of ZAPU, sadly, they were destroyed by ZANU. And I don't believe that they were destroyed by ZANU. ZANU handed over our archives to the British government, the American government, the CIA and the MI5. Why? Because ZAPU and ZIPRA were working with the MK of South Africa. They were working with the Palestinian Liberation Organization of Yasser Arafat. And they also had links with the IRA of Ireland, the Jerry Adams-led, liberation movement. The fear of the British and the Americans at that time, even now, was that there were people known to ZAPU, working with ZAPU, and the evidence is there. Stanley Lair is one of the people who fought in the Golan Heights. The Golan Heights are somewhere in Syria, which was annexed by Israel. And you have Zipras who fought in that war, whatever the end was. But what I'm saying is that it is this relationship between these liberation movements at that time fighting imperialism, fighting colonialism, that was really, that struck fear in the hearts of the colonists. And so, because ZANU-PF was conniving, since 1963, they were conniving with the British and the Americans, even at their formation, to actually subvert the cause of the struggle. And so, since that time, the subversion of the liberation struggle in this country meant the subversion of the ideals of the liberation struggle. And I'm saying devolution was part of the ideals of the liberation struggle. If we understand that, we will not go wrong. We will not fail to understand why they are not keen. It is part of their history. It is part of their making, part of their DNA to in fact deprive people of what they are entitled to. And so, when we fought the liberation struggle, we looked at the different interest groups, whether it was by color, there were Indian who were in ZAPU, there were white people who were in ZAPU, there were Shona people in ZAPU, there were Venda people in ZAPU, there were Xhosa people in ZAPU, all sorts of people. And then people decided, look, the only way you can allow these people, various groups to thrive in their localities is to cede some power, state power, cede power to the locals. And that in itself will lay a foundation for a prosperous, united nation of a country. ZANU in 1908 made sure those archives containing these values and principles were handed over to the British. And I believe the British have got them in the museum.
So this perception to say that the issue of devolution, right, if fully implemented, is going to benefit Matabeleland only. But anyway, people say also that Mashonaland has also been benefiting from that devolution.
It is a lie propagated by ZANU. It is a lie, that is promoted by ZANU in order to give credence to the misgovernance of this country. To say that we fear devolution because it will empower the people of Matabeleland. But practically, let's go down to the ground in Zimbabwe. The people of Mashonaland are enjoying devolution. They are enjoying devolution. Here's my argument. Mm-hmm. My argument is that take the issue of land, for instance, which is a very emotive issue, extremely emotive to you young people, and to me, the elderly, and to my foregons. The issue of land is not just emotive to us in Matabeleland. It is an emotive issue internationally, and it was worth fighting for. And so I'm saying, I want to place this on the table as an issue for debate, a serious issue for debate, to say that this is where ZANU-PF is exposed, in that when you come to the redistribution of land, the people of Mashonaland decide who can actually benefit from land in their own area. I know of people in Masvingo who tried to get land in Mashonaland, were ejected. The former minister, Paul Mangwana, lived as a lawyer in Chebutu. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. He was almost home. He made established home there. He tried to get land there. They reminded him that you don't come from here. Go back and get land in your area. The people of Mashonaland themselves are so sensitive to anybody coming from outside Mashonaland coming to take land. The people of Masvingo are so sensitive to anybody coming from outside Masvingo, even if they're not developer, if they came from Mashonaland or Manikaland to take land, they will protest. Go to Chirezi, the current struggles around Chirezi, around the land being taken by government to give to white farmers in that area to bring development, depriving the people, has caused so much, consternation around the area, so much anger. So it is not peculiar to us. When we then say we are deeply angered by the ZANU-PF policy of applying devolution to one side of the country. And when it comes to Matabeleland, they ensure that the people who are distributing land in Matabeleland are actually led by Shona-speaking people. What does it mean? That the land will go to people from outside Matabeleland, first and foremost. Whether they are policemen, they are CIO, they are prison officers, they are health workers, they are DDF workers, they are architects workers. The civil servants are the first beneficiary of land, but they don't come from here. They come from elsewhere. The devolution that we talk about is something that will create an institution of land distribution in Matabeleland that will consider the people of Matabeleland first and say, yes.
Yeah, allow me to bring the issue of language now. We're saying people of Matabeleland first, right? Over the past weeks, we saw Honorable Mzila Ndlovu, the Deputy Minister of Higher Tertiary Education, being fired for speaking out against the issue of the teachers not speaking their local language or teaching students not using the local language. Speak to us more around that issue of language. How important is to use the local language, and especially in the context of devolution again?
Let's start with the principles of learning. She just said that, former teacher, former lecturer. I taught here at Hillside Teachers College. I taught at Gwanda's Intake. I taught at United College of Education. And my major was psychology. And in psychology, we argue that if you want to connect with a learner, especially second language learning, you must use the first language first to get to the mind language acquisition, faculty in this person's brain. That is a universal principle of learning. And because we are using English as a second language, as we speak now, is key, but we are second language, English language speakers. We have our English, our own, local languages, ethnic languages. In Dinkalanga, it could be Ndebele, it could be Xhosa. But this is where, I wanted to connect with you, especially at the inception, at the introduction of education, you will have to use the language that the child is exposed to in the home. By the way, the language is not born, you are not born with that language. You are born with a faculty to acquire language. Yeah, you are born with, if you had been born in Mashonaland, you would be a strictly Shona speaking person. But we are saying, once people are born in the same area and they live like community, they speak the same language. The language there becomes an asset to them. So if you want to teach the children, use the asset, that linguistic asset, to connect to them and be able to implant the ideas that you want your education to implant in them. And therefore, if you do not use our languages, the problem is that our children will suffer in terms of educational provision. And so what this ZANU-PF deputy minister was expressing is a widely held view by the people of Matabeleland. And that is the predicament of our people in ZANU-PF. They realize the grievances of the people of Matabeleland, but they know there's no room for ZANU-PF to in fact deal with those grievances. The question is, why are they still in ZANU-PF? And for me personally, I was so disappointed when he then apologized. I said, for goodness sake, what is he apologizing for? And that is the fact, that is the truth of the matter, that the people are very bitter about the importation of people into Matabeleland who don't speak the language. When we grew up, we were never taught by Shonas. There were teachers' colleges here. In Tekwane had a teachers' college attached to the primary school. Mchabez had a teachers' college. And Asha had a teachers' college. There are so many, I think in Pandela, I'm not so sure, but there are so many teachers' colleges that will cater for the development, for the training of teachers and the deployment of these teachers in the neighborhood. And so there was no issue with children struggling because the teachers spoke the same language as the children. And that is important. The issue is that you cannot take our teachers here who speak Xhosa and deploy them in Mashonaland West or in Mashonaland East. The sensitivities are not unique to Matabeleland. They are common.
And how can devolution solve this issue of deployment of teachers?
When you implement devolution, you cede some of the state power, like the recruitment of students into teachers' colleges, because this is where the problem starts. But you don't just start there. You go back to Binga and say, what is the condition of schools to be able to produce the kind of student candidate who will enroll at UCE? If you find that the students they are learning in Sharks, rest assured that those children in Binga, in Bridge, in Planted, what have you, will not be able to compete for the few positions at United College. And what has been happening because of the so-called cadre deployment policy of ZANU-PF, very destructive policy, very inhuman, contrary to the principles of liberation. That even at recruitment of colleges, let me start with the staffing of colleges. When I was in higher education, before 1987, before 1990, let me say, you would hardly find a Ndebele-speaking person heading these local colleges. I taught at Hill Success College in 1987, 88. The principal was Wilson Bako. He came from outside Matabeleland. I taught at Gwandazinte. The principal was Fende. I taught at UCE. The principal was Sharai somebody. And it was a deliberate policy that the ministers of education, like the former minister of education, then Mbengwe, the late Mbengwe, ensured, I believe it was a ZANU-PF policy, to deprive the people of Matabeleland the right to have these institutions manned by people who come from the local area in compliance with the devolution spirit. Because devolution does not come with this constitution. It was there but unsaid. It was always there, but ZANU would not implement it. And so the issue is that if you then trace this, the whole string of interrelated, elements, to say, if you really are serious about devolution, start with the condition of schools. Go to the teachers' college and look at the enrollment. We would advertise for positions, for, the enrollment positions at Hillside. You will be shocked to find that the list that you submit to higher education, when it comes back with the stamp, has about 1/3 of them, having been students who are submitted by ZANU-PF. And sadly, some of our Matabeleland leaders were bringing these people students who are from outside Matabeleland, because they were ZANU-PF, bringing them to be enrolled in these colleges. I saw the pattern at Gwanda. I saw the pattern at Hillside College. And that then accounts for the disproportionate numbers of teachers, Shona-speaking teachers to Ndebele-speaking teachers. Because over the last 44 years, the agenda has been reduce the number of children from Matabeleland who have access to higher education teachers' colleges.
But also, you have been a teacher for many years, right?
Yes.
There was the Mzila Ndlovu Commission set up by the former late president, Robert Mugabe, right? Led by Dr. Kefas Nziramasanga, right? It speaks about the issue of development of teachers and also the issue of language and training of teachers. Why isn't the Nziramasanga Commission report, the recommendations been fully implemented in Zimbabwe by the government?
They will not, because they will then negate the political intentions of ZANU-PF. Simply. You can't. And that is not the only commission, by the way. You have the Willowville Commission. What did they do about it? When the Willowville Commission started knocking on the doors of Robert Mugabe and Sali Mugabe, they just shut it down. Did they not? You have the Dumuchena Commission on the Gukuraunde. What did you hear about it? Nothing. The other commission is called what? Shihambakwe. The Shihambakwe Commission. These are critical commissions. I'm trying to add on to what you are saying, to say that then informs you that there's a deliberate intention to set up this commission to mislead people, that you are actually wanting to know what people think, but then refuse to implement. That is the character. It is in the DNA of ZANU-PF. They will not, as long as it doesn't play into their agenda in terms of ethnic, repression, ethnic oppression, ethnic marginalization. They will always do that. And that commission that man was an educationist. Nziramasanga. He was an educationist. When I went to the UZ, he was there as a lecturer. And I think his commission did an extremely educational, an investigation of an educational value. Okay,
from myself, Brighton,
And Nonhlanhla Mapigwa.
It's bye for now.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode. For feedback, you can contact us on 263-777-470017. Don't forget to follow and like our social media pages.